I grew up in the Evergreen household, raised as their future son-in-law. When I was 21, Amelia and I had a drunken night that led us to naturally get married. I was just thrilled my wish had come true, but I didn't know she already had a man in her heart. In the third year of our marriage, a guy named Ethan suddenly returned to the country. That day, Amelia cut her hair, put on a new shirt, and never came home that night. I was left forgotten in a swirling snowstorm. Amelia came back the next morning. The house was quiet. To avoid waking her husband, she went to the study first. Everything was as usual, except there was a new photo and a blank paper on the desk. The photo was from years ago, a gift from Ethan. On the back, she'd written a note. "Thinking of you, never forgotten." Beside it, in her husband David's neat handwriting, it said, "Amelia, I wish you happiness." The snow was falling so heavily, like pulled-apart cotton, blanketing everything. I stood under the gate of the cemetery, took out my phone, and called Amelia a second time. After a few rings, the call was cut off. I was a bit stunned. The snowflakes, whipped by the wind, slapped cold on my face. When she dropped me off at the cemetery, Amelia said there'd be a heavy snow today and she'd come pick me up early. But now the snow was falling. The winding mountain road led deep into the distance, and there was no sign of her. "Sir, if you don't head down the mountain now, it'll be too late. Once the snow blocks the road, you won't be able to drive in or out," a caretaker of the cemetery said, rubbing his hands worriedly. I bit my lip and dialed a third time. The ringing went on, and just before the call ended, someone picked up. My heart warmed, but then it turned sour with disappointment. It wasn't Amelia's voice on the line. It was a soft, unfamiliar male voice. "Hello? Are you looking for Amelia? She's not able to come to the phone right now." My ears buzzed, as if all the blood in my body rushed to my head. That morning, Amelia put on a white shirt she'd never worn, but chose an old tie that was out of fashion. When she came to get me at noon, she'd cut her hair and looked radiant. She seemed to be in a good mood. The usually cool and distant person seemed a bit softer today. Before leaving, she did a rare thing by tying my scarf herself. In 3 years of marriage, these tender moments between Amelia and me were rare. I couldn't speak, just stared at the thickening snow. A gentle male voice came again. "Are you listening? Did you call the wrong number?" The guy muttered about it being weird and hung up. I gave some money to the cemetery caretaker, and he drove me down the mountain in his second-hand van. By the time I got home, it was late at night. It was the house Amelia and I shared in marriage, especially peaceful and beautiful when it snowed. After a hot bath, I stood outside Amelia's study for a long time before pushing the door open and going in. On the second day after our wedding, she'd coldly told me not to go into her study randomly. If I had to, I wasn't allowed to touch anything inside. I'd loved her since I was young, so of course, I always followed her words. But now, standing at her desk, I noticed a book turned face down. Inside, there was a small photo. The photo was old, showing a guy with a young, tender face smiling gently and shyly at the camera. On the back of the photo, a few lines said, "For Amelia, Ethan." Below those lines, in Amelia's writing, it said, "Thinking of you, never forgotten." I suddenly laughed out loud, put the photo back, and couldn't help mocking my own slowness. There had been signs. Recently, Amelia had been flying to France frequently. I thought it was for work and didn't pay much attention. But over the past month, her passion for intimacy had suddenly cooled. Even the other night, when I initiated, she pushed me away. Yet after marriage, she used to want it almost every night. Her passion in bed often made me forget how cold and quiet she was during the day. Only now did I realize it had always been a one-man show, mine alone. If she loved someone else, why did she cling to me? After getting drunk 3 years ago, on my 21st birthday, Amelia suddenly stumbled into my room drunk. "David, do you really want it this much?" Her dark eyes were full of swirling desire. "Then I'll give it to you. Fulfill you." She kissed me hard, her kisses passionate and lingering. Even when we consummated, it felt harsh, not particularly caring. I was scared and in pain, but secretly delighted, as years of unrequited love seemed to have finally yielded the fruit I dreamed of. At the most tender moment, she clung to me, refusing to stop. "Don't push me away. Don't reject me again, okay? Say you love me, that you'll never leave me." I swallowed my shyness and pain, repeatedly professing my love for her. The joy in my heart grew wildly, and I felt like giving her my whole heart. How could I have known that Amelia wasn't just drunk and out of control? That night, she didn't love me. She never had. I turned and walked out of the house. Looking at the peaceful, snow-covered home, I knew I couldn't stay here a minute longer. By morning, the snow had stopped, and Amelia had the driver take her home. Last night, she'd been in high spirits, drank too much, and because of the snow, stayed at a hotel. But her internal clock never changed, so despite the hangover, she woke up before dawn. After a brief period of confusion, she suddenly remembered it was the anniversary of David's father's death. She'd promised David to pick him up early. She felt a twinge of guilt. When David was little, he lost his parents in an accident. The Evergreens took him in. They grew up together as childhood friends, and she always treated him like a little brother. Until he was 21, and he drugged her drink, clung to her, holding her, driven to madness by the drug, and she mistook him for Ethan. She still remembers how David kept telling her over and over again, "Amelia, I really like you. I will never leave you, not in this lifetime." Of course, he dared to say such things since the elders of the Evergreens adored him. The next day, when their affair was discovered, there was immediate pressure on her to marry him. Amelia let out a silent, cold laugh. He got what he wished for. But what about Ethan? Her marriage broke Ethan's heart. He left for another country, and for many years, he refused to give her the slightest bit of news. Amelia sighed heavily and rubbed her aching temples. The car drove through the gates, and all around was quiet. The main building was dark, as she knew David loved to sleep in on cold winter days. He never rose early, so she didn't return to the master bedroom. Instead, she headed directly to the study. The door was still slightly ajar, unlocked. On the second day of their marriage, she had warned David to never enter her study, and he had always listened. For the past 3 years, he hadn't set foot in it. She pushed the door open. Everything in the study was just as it was. The book she'd been flipping through recently was still face down on the desk. But next to it, there was a photo and a sheet of white paper. Amelia's heart suddenly tightened. She quickly walked over and saw Ethan's picture. She picked it up and saw the paper underneath. The handwriting was neat and strong. It was just one short sentence. She recognized it instantly as David's writing. "Amelia, I'm setting you free." She didn't know how long she stood there. When she came to, the paper was crumpled tightly in her hand. She also noticed the gold pen on the side. It had been David's wedding gift to her, and now he had used it to give her the surprise. Amelia seemed to let out a small laugh, turned around, and quickly walked out. She went to the master bedroom, pushed the door open, but found it empty. She stood there for half a minute, then laughed out of anger. She had felt a bit guilty for forgetting to pick him up the previous day, but that feeling was long gone now. Keeping a stern face, Amelia threw the crumpled paper ball forcefully into the trash can. Just as she turned to go downstairs, her phone rang. Her heart skipped, and she quickly grabbed it. But the name flashing on the screen was Ethan. She brushed off the faint sense of disappointment. "Amelia, how about going to the hot spring resort in a few days? Bring your husband along so you can introduce us. I'd really like to know what kind of person he is." Amelia found herself unexpectedly angry. Not bringing him. He's just a troublemaker who'll ruin the mood. Besides, he's still young. 24 is still young? At that age, you were far more sensible. Ethan laughed softly. "What's gotten into you? Such a temper so early in the morning." "Nothing, just annoyed." "Well, want me to keep you company?" Ethan's voice was as gentle as ever, soothing the inexplicable anger in her heart. Her tone softened. "Let's have lunch together. I'll pick you up." "All right, I'll wait for you." Amelia hadn't called me once since she left home. That's just how she is, never proactive, always distant. These past few days, I've seen a few lawyers to consult about the divorce. Once the agreement was drafted, I was about to head to the old house when I received a call from an unknown number. My first thought was Ethan. I hesitated for a few seconds, but answered it. "Who is this?" I was met with a long silence. Just as I was about to hang up, a person on the other end finally spoke. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" The same voice, the same tone as that night, soft and gentle like spring rain, but it made it hard for me to breathe. "Just say what you want," I said, tightly clenching my palms, allowing the pain to engulf me. "David, mending a broken heart is difficult, but I'm confident." "Do you know why?" "Why?" "Because what you can't have always lingers in your mind. But what you have and lose is what cuts the deepest. The place. It was the best answer, wasn't it? Ethan was right. The house would always be there, never disappearing. That's what made it unforgettable, never leaving my thoughts. Amelia gradually noticed something was off. David still hadn't come home. No calls from the old house either. Over the past 3 years, David would sometimes sulk and go stay at the old house for a few days, and usually, either Grandpa or Sophia would call to have her bring David back. She'd gotten irritated by his little antics before, but now with his behavior so different, it felt unsettling. Amelia thought for a moment, then called Sophia. Standing under the eaves, she made small talk for a bit before getting to the point. Is David at the old house? Is he crying to you and Grandpa again? Sophia paused before speaking. He did come back. Amelia felt the fog in her heart begin to lift. She toyed with the bird feeder, a smile tugging at her lips. He's been bothering you too, hasn't he? I'll come to get him then, so he doesn't disturb the peace. Amelia. Sophia suddenly interrupted. David's already gone. He gave me something and left. I couldn't persuade him to stay. Sophia's voice broke. What did you do to hurt him so terribly? Amelia's hand froze, the finches chirping in fright. She slowly gathered herself, her expression remaining calm. What did he give you? Let him go if he wants. Where can he go, really? Yes, the world was vast, but David had only one home. She wasn't afraid he'd leave. He loved her too much to go. Sophia seemed to stifle a sob. It was the divorce agreement. David said he wants a divorce. He wanted to leave City A and never come back. Amelia suddenly felt a moment of emptiness by her ear. The sky was gloomy in the distance, like it was going to snow again. On the other end of the phone, Sophia said something else, but she didn't hear a word until Sophia called her name a few more times. Then she slowly came back to her senses. What did he say? Nothing. He didn't say anything. Told me to find a time to give you the divorce papers. A cold wind suddenly whipped snowflakes onto her face. It hurt a bit, sharply. Amelia brushed it away with her hand, her voice still calm. I'll come get it now. She asked the driver to get the car ready to go back to the old house. As the car drove out of the home, she looked out the car window. Thick, dark clouds covered the entire sky. A heavy snow was coming. She suddenly remembered. It snowed all night that night, yet no car left the house. So how did David leave that night? Sophia called me back, but the voice echoing in my ear was Amelia's. I saw the divorce agreement. There are a few points I disagree with. I stood in front of the hotel's floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the lit-up city outside, coated in snow, until a dull pain spread from the deepest part of my heart. I finally found my voice. Okay, I'll have my lawyer contact you. David, I don't have time to bicker with your lawyer. So what do you want? Let's discuss it face to face. If it goes smoothly, I'll sign right away. All right, where are you now? I'll have the driver pick you up. No need, just tell me where to meet. I'll head there. Now, because of the snow, I was delayed a bit on the road. I was about 20 minutes late from the agreed time. Amelia hates tardy people. When I went in, she was checking her watch, looking quite displeased. Seeing me, she seemed even icier in a flash, as if even the gold-rimmed glasses perched on her straight nose glinted coldly. I lowered my head and chuckled softly. Not liking a person really makes one intolerant of even the tiniest mistakes. Sorry, there was traffic. Excuses like that mean nothing to me. I stood in front of her, took a deep breath. My apologies for wasting your precious time. Amelia paused while holding the divorce agreement. Sit down and talk. I settled opposite her. Which parts do you disagree with? Before marriage, Grandpa said that if we divorce within 10 years, regardless of who's at fault, I won't get his shares. Amelia seemed to let out a light laugh. David, you know that. So are you threatening me by proposing a divorce on purpose? I slowly raised my eyes, looking at her calmly. The woman in front of me had been my wife for 3 years, someone I secretly admired since my youth, yet also someone I never fully understood, someone I never entered their heart. She pushed the divorce agreement towards me, stood up, and firmly instructed, pack up and come back home with me tonight. I can pretend this never happened. Amelia, but I interrupted her. I'll go see Grandpa, talk to him about this matter. It won't affect your inheritance of shares. David, we both know how much Grandpa favors you. They pushed you onto me back then. How would they easily relent now? Amelia tugged her tie slightly, frowning, her face significantly icy. her voice cold as frost. It felt like someone tore open my heart, leaving it raw and bloody. 3 years, and she finally voiced the truth she harbored for 3 years. It must have been hard for her, a proud woman like her, yet she had to endure such grievances. I wanted to laugh, but my eyes burned painfully. I'm really sorry, Amelia. My hand gripped the divorce paper tightly, my voice trembling, my body shaking. I'm really sorry for wasting 3 years of your life. David, anyway, I'll do my utmost to have Grandpa retract his decision so you won't be put in a difficult spot. I turned and walked out. After taking 2 steps, her voice came seepingly from behind. So miserable now. Didn't you think about it when you plotted against me before? I paused and looked back at Amelia confoundedly. I plotted against you? She seemed to laugh faintly, withdrawing her gaze coolly. David, I'm only giving you one chance. Come back home tonight, and I'll wipe the slate clean. Amelia, I swear I'll never go back. Amelia looked at me for 3 seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was already hauntingly cold. As you wish. Amelia held a cup of tea, gazing outside the window, until Ethan called her twice. Then she came back to her senses. What are you daydreaming about? Your tea's gone cold. Ethan chuckled as he took the teacup from her hands, replacing it with a fresh cup of hot tea. Amelia lowered her head, taking a small sip. The tea was excellent, but it tasted bland to her. Ethan also held a cup of tea, sitting next to her. Your husband still won't come home. Amelia instantly frowned. Don't mention him. Ethan had a pair of calm eyes. When he looked at someone, it was like their heart could instantly settle. Amelia, I've been thinking for a long time. I should go back to France. Why suddenly go back? Ethan just smiled gently. I'm not happy, so I really hope the people I care about can be happy. You've been happily married to your husband for 3 years, but when I came back, things went south. What does it have to do with you? It's his own recklessness and immaturity, with the elder's indulgence making him more unruly. Amelia thought about how Grandpa scolded her harshly on the phone, making her more annoyed. She hadn't expected David would really go to Grandpa. He seemed set on clashing with her, and she never thought about divorcing him. He wants to cause a fuss, she'll let him. He'd get over it in a few days himself. But now, with every step of this unfolding, it seemed beyond her expectations. Truly good. Ethan suddenly laughed lightly, but as he laughed, a tear slowly trickled down. Ethan, why are you crying? Just envious of your husband. Ethan looked up, a smile with tears, looking especially delicate and pitiful. Amelia thought of his background and felt a bit sorry. Though his parents passed away early, he had your whole family to love and support him. Ethan rarely showed such self-pity. Unlike me, I've never had elders backing me up. He suddenly choked up. No one has ever shown me the way when I've hit rock bottom. Amelia, I used to say I would never regret anything, but now it seems I do. If I hadn't gone through with it, would we still have a chance, Ethan? Amelia suddenly sat down her teacup and stood up. It's all in the past. There's no what if in this world. Do you still hate me? Hate that I left without a word. Amelia shook her head. I never hated you. Back then, it was my fault. Whatever you did was justified. Ethan broke down, throwing himself into Amelia's arms. No, I know you've always hated me inside. I was too stupid, couldn't look past it. When I saw David boasting about your wedding, I lost it. Amelia's lips tightened, her face pale with a touch of gloom. Ethan's resentment was like a thin thread wrapped around her heart, cutting it open. Amelia, I actually do regret it, but it's too late. Amelia gently cradled his face, tenderly. She wiped away the tears from his eyes, from his face, until finally, she tasted the salty bitterness of his tears. Ethan deepened the kiss between them. In these years apart, there's been no one else for me. Ethan let go with one hand, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. In that moment, Amelia inexplicably thought of David, that night of uncontrolled indulgence after drinks, his image unfolding slowly before her in the night. Amelia wondered why at this moment, as an old flame poured out his love and pain, she thought of her husband. But the moment Ethan took her hand and placed it on his chest, she recoiled like she'd been shocked and pushed him away. Her phone began vibrating relentlessly, becoming her salvation. Sorry, I need to take this call. Ethan bit his lip, a surge of unspeakable disappointment and foreboding. But remembering Amelia's gaze filled with heartache for him, he encouraged himself, brimming with hope. Love doesn't last long, nor is it dependable. A woman's guilt and sympathy towards a man are more useful. He wants Amelia to feel indebted to him for life. He wants Amelia to feel heartache for him, to never let him go. But then Amelia hit him with something that sent him spiraling back into the abyss. What did you say? David just fainted? The doctor says he's sick. Amelia was speaking into the phone, grabbing her coat and heading out. Ethan stood there stunned while she opened the door. Amelia. He rushed after her, grabbing her sleeve. Amelia turned back, seeing Ethan's tear-swollen eyes, but those teary eyes overlapped with how David had looked at her crying. What was she doing with Ethan? It was already over. Her husband was David. She had never thought about divorcing David, but now she was tangled up with Ethan. Their feelings, their destiny had long ended. If she hadn't had that drunken mishap with David, maybe the story would have played out differently. But now there was no turning back. She still ended up pushing Ethan's hand away. Sorry, Ethan, I need to go now. You heard it, my husband is sick. What about me? What about me, Amelia? Ethan's tears welled up instantly. Have you fallen for him? But you said you'd only ever love me. You even built this place for me, Ethan. Amelia frowned slightly, cutting him off. I admit I did love you very much before, but that's all in the past. I have a husband, and I've never thought about divorcing him. Amelia lifted her hand, gently wiping Ethan's tears. I don't want to make the same mistake again, Amelia. Ethan reached to grab her hand, but she turned resolutely, striding out of the room. Said she didn't want to make the same mistake again. But him. Ethan watched her hurriedly leave without looking back. He collapsed weakly to the ground. Did he really make a mistake back then? If he had stomached the insults and humiliation from the Evergreens folks back then, could he have held it a little longer, swallowed his pride? Would it not have ended up like this? Being left by Amelia once more. When David woke from his stupor, the first person he saw was Amelia by his bedside. Awake, she looked a little haggard, but her eyes seemed to be lit with surprise. What happened to me? He weakly opened his eyes, glancing around. This seemed like the room at the old house, but why was he here? Hadn't Sophia promised to pull the plug on that decision and also promised him to let him and Amelia divorce? Why was he still here? And why was Amelia looking at him like that? Do you want some water? What would you like to eat? I'll have the kitchen make it for you. Amelia's hand fell on his forehead, checking his temperature. No fever, that's good. Why am I here? What really happened to me, David? Amelia suddenly took his hand. He wanted to pull away, but she held on tight. David stayed silent for a while, wanting to speak, but couldn't find the words. In the 3 years of their marriage, in the most intimate times under the sheets, there were only fleeting kisses and a few shy whispers. She had never looked at him so tenderly, had never spoken so softly to him. How laughable. Just because things had changed a little between them, it wouldn't happen. He pushed her hand away, softly murmuring, Wouldn't what? Wouldn't laugh at me. How do you know? Because. He looked up, staring calmly yet decisively at her. I don't want to keep living like this. Amelia threw a huge tantrum. Growing up, she was never one to show her emotions, even in 3 years of marriage, no less. Though she had misunderstood him before, she never really took it out on him. But when he said once more that he didn't want to live like this, Amelia lost it and smashed the cup in front of her. The noise in the room quickly drew the attention of the elders in the house. Sophia called her away. Sophia stayed with him, both happy and sad. Seeing traces of tears on his face made him feel uneasy too. He was only 5 when he was adopted. Sophia, compassionate for his being parentless, raised him with her. How could he ever forget the loving kindness of those days and nights? I'm sorry. He looked at Sophia and said softly, Silly child, why apologize? Was it Amelia's tantrum that scared you? I'll give her a good scolding later. No, a good spanking. No need. David straightened up from Sophia's embrace. At that moment, he didn't dare look her in the eyes. Yet how could he accept it? His beloved wife always had someone else in her heart, even when being gentle with him. What he couldn't accept even more was their marriage. Home was named after another person. Truly sorry, I don't want to continue living like this. He fought back tears, biting his lip hard. I disappointed you. Sophia sat there stunned. After a while, tears started pouring from her eyes. David, is there really no chance? To give Amelia another chance. Her hands shook violently, gripping mine, unwilling to let go. David, I'm begging you like a mother, okay? For so many years, I've raised you as my own, never asked anything of you. This time, consider it a plea from your mother, please." I watched his tears rolling down in streams, listening to him begging me like that, pleading to someone like me, who owes their family so much but feels powerless to repay. Ultimately, I couldn't bring myself to refuse him again, maybe because I'm an orphan too. In this world, there's only this little life. He's my flesh and blood. My heart finally softened. I sat there dazed. Let me think it over. Sophia was overjoyed instantly. All right, I won't disturb you. Take your time." Sophia left. There were faint noises outside. A moment later, a servant brought in some soup. Carefully, they told me, "Sir, the master just got really angry. He made Miss Amelia kneel in the snow outside. He said she could only get up when you forgave her." I kicked off the covers and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was gloomy, and it started snowing again. The garden's cobblestone path was covered in thick snow. Amelia was kneeling there, her back straight. I instinctively bit my lip. A mix of sourness and pain filled my chest. My nose suddenly felt sore. I watched for a while, then drew the curtains and turned back to the bed. When it got dark, the servant said Amelia was still kneeling in the snow, her clothes soaked through. "I want to see Grandpa. There's no need to plead for her, unless you're willing to forgive her." Grandpa sat there, sighing heavily. "She's as troublesome as her father." I didn't quite grasp what he meant. As I was about to ask, a servant rushed in, saying Amelia had fallen but propped herself back up. It was snowing heavily outside. In this cold winter, kneeling any longer could destroy her legs. I didn't have any deep hatred for Amelia. Instead, the evergreens had shown me immense kindness. "There's no need for this, Grandpa. Let her get up." I spoke calmly. "Grandpa, I won't compromise on the divorce." That night, Amelia developed a high fever. She was usually healthy and rarely fell ill, but this time it lingered for 4 to 5 days. It wasn't until the snow started to slow that she began to recover. Once she was better, Grandpa finally allowed her to see me. I insisted on moving out of the old house, returned to the hotel I stayed at before. Once the old house was tidied up, I'd move back in. The day we met was rare and sunny. She'd lost a lot of weight, and her cheeks looked a bit sunken. Seeing me, she hesitated a little. After a while, she walked over and squatted in front of me. "David," she tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. She didn't press it, instead, softly asking, "I heard you're sorting out the old house, planning to move back. If you don't want to return now, the Evergreens have other houses too. I want to stay in my home." I slowly lowered my gaze, placing a hand lightly on my flat stomach. Maybe it's just human nature. When you know you have a responsibility to bear, it tugs at your heart and mind day and night. "If you want, it's okay to stay at home for now." Amelia looked at me. "Over there, I'm also having it rearranged." I don't want to hear that name. It's like a sharp thorn piercing deep into my heart. Hurts even if I don't touch it. I turned away, looking out the window. "I want to sleep for a bit. You should go." "All right." Amelia finally reached out, gently touching my hair. I was about to dodge, but she lowered her hand first. "Oh, by the way, there's a checkup scheduled for tomorrow. I'll come to pick you up." I said nothing. Amelia didn't say anything more and left. But the next day, she didn't come to pick me up. As the checkup appointment started to draw near, Oliver wasn't there. I just packed my documents and planned to go by myself. But as I was about to leave, I got a call from Amelia. "David, something came up last minute. Hang tight in your room. Don't go downstairs yet." She sounded kind of desperate. It was the noise and chatter around her. My heart slowly started to rise. "What's going on?" "Nothing much, just a friend in a bit of trouble. Don't worry, I'll be there soon. Just stay put." "Okay, Amelia." I was about to ask more, but then the call was cut off. Just before it ended, though, I think I heard a male voice, almost like he was crying, calling her name. I stood there, holding my phone for a moment. I don't know why, but I thought about that cemetery that day. I knew in my heart that Amelia wasn't coming back today. But that's okay. I wasn't sad or disappointed anymore, because from that day on, I stopped expecting anything from her. I didn't keep waiting in the room. I grabbed my bag and left. When I took the elevator down to the first floor, I saw the lobby was packed with journalists and media, as loud as a marketplace. Flashbulbs were constantly going off, focused on a couple in the middle of the crowd. Just from their backs, I recognized it was Amelia. In the camera lenses of the reporters, only Amelia's extremely cold face appeared. "Ms. Amelia, Is it true that you and your husband are separated? Is it because of Ethan? Did your husband deliberately reveal to the media that he was staying at a hotel owned by Ethan to get back at him for interfering in your marriage? What do you have to say about your husband's actions? Did Ethan really come between you and your husband? Suddenly, Amelia grabbed a camera that was almost in her face and smashed it to the ground. The loud, continuous questions stopped at once. Amelia coldly looked at everyone. Firstly, the matter between my husband and me is private, so I have no comment. Secondly, Ethan is not involved in my marriage and is not a third party. Thirdly, the house we own is between my husband and me, with no one else involved. She then turned her gaze to a female reporter. As a married woman, aren't you afraid of public opinion, or that your husband will be hurt by you defending another man? If you hadn't all come to bother my friend, blocking him in the bathroom, I wouldn't have to do this. Let me ask you this, Ms. Amelia, are you not planning to divorce your husband? And are you and Ethan just friends? Your feelings for your husband. Amelia said nothing more. Her bodyguards arrived just then, parting the crowd and escorting the two of them quickly away. The crowd was about to chase after them, but suddenly they surged towards me. Instinctively, I clutched my stomach, trying to get out of the way, but out of nowhere, someone pushed me, and off balance, I fell hard to the ground. Call an ambulance, hurry. Panic filled the air, mixed with the constant shutter clicks. The light was blinding. My world turned from glaring white to total darkness. I curled up on the ground, slowly closing my eyes. Outside the hospital room, Sophia slapped Amelia hard across the face. Amelia stood still, no flinching, not even a frown, though her face bore a clear handprint. Sophia seemed drained of all energy and sank onto a bench. It's my fault David's hurt. I ruined his happiness. If I'd known you were such a disappointment, I'd rather have disowned you than set you up with David. This is my retribution. Sophia laughed, but the laughter soon turned to tears. Your retribution is even bigger. You fell for the son of the woman who broke up our family. You even want to marry him. Where does that leave me? How can I just watch that woman's son take over? Amelia, that night you were with David, I put something in your drink. Then it all naturally led to forcing you to marry him. I thought I was doing the best thing for everyone, splitting you and Ethan, making David happy. But I was wrong. I hurt him. You don't deserve him. You've lost your true love for someone despicable. That's your punishment for falling in love with her. Amelia looked at her mom in disbelief. What did you say? You drugged my drink. Yes, I did. Why didn't you tell me sooner? How could I? My own daughter wanted to be with the son of an enemy. What mother would let that happen without a fight? Sophia laughed and cried. I did slip something into your drink, Amelia, but it was a very small amount. Ask yourself, was it really strong enough to make you lose control, or were you already tempted? Only you know. How has David treated you these 3 years? And how have you treated him in return? Even a stone heart should have warmed by now. But instead, you've tossed your husband aside for that woman's offspring. Do you know how much you hurt him? Do you know that night how he walked away step by step into the freezing snowstorm? It's pathetic. You humiliate your husband to show how noble your love is. But it doesn't matter. A disgrace will always be a disgrace, and he'll never set foot in the Evergreen household. Amelia stood frozen, her hands clenched into tight fists by her side, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. Memories flashed rapidly before her eyes. Was it the drug, or was she already unable to resist him? Only she knows. She couldn't face the guilt of Ethan's betrayal or admit to herself she'd begun feeling something for someone she treated like a brother. So she chose to deceive herself, selfishly blaming David. She complacently enjoyed the privileges of being a wife, yet refused to offer him any warmth. Suddenly, Amelia turned and ran to the hospital room door. She pushed it open, finding David standing there in his hospital gown. His pale face was streaked with tears. David. Amelia stood, too scared to take a step forward, too scared to reach out and wipe away his tears. After a long silence, David finally spoke to her. It was the first word and also the last. Amelia, let's get divorced and never see each other again. When I was preparing to leave City A after I got discharged, it was almost the end of the year. Snow covered the city. Sophia came to see me off. I knew Amelia was in the car too, but I didn't want to see her, and Sophia wouldn't force me either. About what happened back then, I never held a grudge against Sophia. Once the misunderstanding was cleared up, I couldn't help but wonder if none of that had happened. What would things be like now? Maybe I would have married someone I didn't love and lived a mediocre life. Or maybe I wouldn't marry anyone, just live a life meant for David. To love her once and marry her for 3 years, in the end, all I got was hurt. But the good thing is, I'm gradually getting healthier, and I'm still young. The future still holds countless possibilities. If there's a chance, I must return to visit. You and Grandpa both miss you. Sophia helped me with my scarf. Sure, take care of you and Grandpa. Sophia nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I wiped her tears away and comforted her gently. Don't be sad. Do you hate me? No. I only remember how you've loved me over the years. Sophia covered her mouth and burst into tears. The hotel incident was Ethan's own doing. He leaked the story to the media, orchestrating the whole thing. Debts must be paid. Injuries must be compensated. For what he's done, I'm sure the law will serve justice. Sophia gritted her teeth. She still has the nerve to ask people to seek reconciliation with you. I'm not reconciling, no matter what. I'm firm about it. Amelia also said it's impossible to reconcile. She definitely wants Ethan in jail. I exhaled deeply. That's good. Even the woman I loved is no match for family blood ties in the end. But I don't want to think about all this anymore. I gave Sophia one last hug and turned to get in the car. Sitting in the car, I still couldn't help myself. I rolled down the window to take one last look. In the cold breeze, Sophia kept waving at me. Not far away, Amelia stood under a bare tree in a black coat, tall and graceful, still beautiful and youthful. But she wouldn't ever again stir my heart with just a glance. All those past overwhelming emotions, things I once thought were so big, just disappeared lightly like that. The moment our eyes were about to meet, I turned my head away and closed the window. The road to the airport was a bit long. Halfway, I drifted into a drowsy sleep. In my dreams, it seemed like I was back in my childhood. I was only 5, having just arrived at the Evergreens. Over time, I got to know Amelia better. She held my little hand and taught me how to write my own name, stroke by stroke. Then later on, as I grew a bit older, the tracing booklets I used were all handwritten by Amelia. My handwriting ended up looking a lot like hers. But over those long years, the writings she left behind were all thoughts and admiration for Ethan. And I was chasing nothing but a cold, distant illusion. Many of my friends or relatives of the same age had walked into marriages, but she remained alone. The flattened yard wasn't rebuilt, and it gradually became desolate. Sophia's health continued to decline, spending many years recuperating in the South, always reluctant to see her. Before the year turned, Grandpa couldn't withstand a cold and passed away. Even on his deathbed, he was still thinking about David, holding on just to wait for him. He rushed over after a late-night flight, barely in time to accompany Grandpa through his final moments. During the funeral, his tears didn't stop. He supported Sophia. Once Grandpa's funeral was over, he was ready to leave. On the day he left, we talked for the first time while sorting out the study. When our house was torn down, I found an old diary starting from when I was 14. It filled up with the concerns of a young heart, words written with care and emotion. Now she finally understood. Just like she once did with Ethan. Even though he's half a year older, he never called her sister. Most of the old stuff from the study wasn't taken with her, but that yellow diary and many of David's handwriting samples, she inexplicably took them. Over the years, she rarely dreamed of David, but on those rare occasions, she couldn't clearly see his face in dreams. Now as he stood before her, full of life, she could even see his long, dark eyebrows clearly, the shadow cast by his dense eyelashes, a tiny brown mole near the corner of his eye. She raised her hand, wanting to touch his hair, but in the end, she didn't do anything, just softly reminded him, "Come back and visit when you can. Mom always thinks of you." "Okay, I will." After saying that, he fell silent again until the car arrived. She quietly took his suitcase. "Let me see you off." David seemed reluctant, but without waiting for his response, she took his suitcase and walked out. Every inch of the Evergreens' old house was familiar to them. They walked through winding paths, the garden, the lawn, and past the old tree. To hear young David's laughter echoing, his natural playfulness, his mischievous nature, even better at climbing trees than her. Once he climbed to the highest branches, scaring everyone at home. Even Grandpa was alarmed, came with a cane, trembling, asking others to bring a ladder to carry him down. But David quickly climbed down by himself again. Among the lush branches, he shouted to Amelia repeatedly, "Catch me. I'm gonna jump. Stop fooling around. You'll get hurt," she scolded him with a stern face. He didn't care at all, just giggled and boldly jumped down. Her heart was pounding like a drum, but her face stayed calm. She spread her arms steadily and, sure enough, caught him. Sophia patted her chest repeatedly and pretended to be angry, threatening to hit him. He hid behind her, dodging and turning in circles. She couldn't help but laugh, protecting him and pleading on his behalf. How could Mom really bear to scold him? Everyone in the family loved him so much, spoiling him. She was no exception. When did things start to change so quietly? Nothing could ever go back to the way it was. She couldn't understand. Was it really that people's hearts are so fickle, or do people when young take things for granted? The old house's gate was right in front of her. Born deep within her heart was a fantasy, too unrealistic. Oh, how she wished never to reach it. How she wished they could all go back to the past. She would face her heart directly and clearly tell him. Actually, when she and Ethan split, the feelings faded. After that, what remained was mainly guilt and pity for him losing the child. She didn't dislike him. She didn't mind marrying him. Those 3 years after they got married, she actually felt quite happy. But it was too late. David got into the car, waved at her with a smile, about to close the window. Suddenly, she went over to the car, raised her hand to stop the rising window. "David," she called his name. He was looking at his phone, surprised. He looked up, a sweet smile still on his face. Her heart suddenly ached sharply. A buzzing sound came in her ears, like the noisy cicadas of summer. "Anything else?" He looked at her openly. She stood there quietly watching him for a good while. His phone buzzed again. He looked down, a slight smirk, his fingers danced on the screen. Eventually, she took a step back slowly. "No," she said. "Be careful on the road, and let me know when you arrive safely." He nodded, waved at her, looked down, and kept typing seriously. He didn't look at her even once. The car started, slowly turned the corner, and drove out of her sight. Time moved on like that, slowly forward, year after year. When Ethan got out of prison, she had countless requests to see her. She refused. He tried pleading through others, but she never ended up meeting him. Heard that he later married a widow, though it seemed he didn't really marry. Later, there was no news from him. At 42, Sophia passed away. David traveled a long distance with his wife and kids for the funeral. It was in their lifetime, the last time they met. Seeing them off, David stood before her eyes, seemingly red, but ultimately, he said nothing to her. She stood outside the old house's gate, watching David's car drive away with his family, motionless for a long time until a flock of crows flew over, calling. She suddenly bowed her head and smiled, rubbing her wedding ring, turned around, and stepped into the deep courtyard. She walked slowly back along the path David left, into the study, then took out the pen David gave her at their wedding, touched it for a long time before slowly writing a sentence on paper. For more years passed. On a spring day, the spring when she married David, the servants noticed she hadn't come down for breakfast as usual. Realizing something was off, they pried open the study door. She was sitting lifelessly in the recliner at her desk. On the desk, a photo rubbed by time, frayed at the edges. The person in the photo still smiling, but from 20 years ago. On the table, a few sheets of messy white paper. She had scrawled with that gold pen. In retrospect, like smoke. I wish it hadn't been so rushed. 3 hurried years had trapped her where she stood, and David, long gone, far away.